If you've been looking for some wireless gaming headphones with a superb quality and loads of features, then the SteelSeries Arctis Gamebuds might be the thing for you. Now, these are in-ears with some hidden delights and plenty of nice features. Bluetooth and 2.4 GHz wireless, active noise cancellation, and a very comfortable fit, as well as a stylish design and plenty of battery life with its own charging dock. Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, here to talk to you about my experience with these in-ears, what they've been like to use, how they stack up against the Logitech G Fits, which I've been using a fair bit, and the other hidden highlights of these that include a load of EQ profiles, onboard hardware controls, app customization, and compatibility with SteelSeries GG, and how I've been using them with that and a separate setup as well, I'll get to a little later on. You'll see in the box, you get the earphones themselves, some additional tips, and you also have a 2.4 GHz wireless dongle inside the little charging case, which is wonderful. Simple little things like that make a big difference because it means you're not going to lose that because you can store it away nice and easily. Obviously, these have magnetic charging capabilities as well, so you can just drop them in there for charge when required. Now, these sport up to 10 hours of battery life as standard, and then you can get 3 extra charges from that charging case. So I found that I rarely have to charge them. I've been using them all day for ages while gaming or working, so while recording video, and then just drop them into the charging puck, and then next time I want to use them, they're just available, and obviously easy charging there. They have Bluetooth 5.3 capabilities as standard, but you want to use the 2.4 GHz dongle as seen here for low latency wireless when gaming on PC or on console, so they work with PlayStation or Xbox. You can get different models accordingly. And there's an adapter here that you might need. You'll see that the USB-C dongle obviously has this L-shaped design to it. Now, that might block ports. For example, you can see if I use it on my PC, it blocks the USB-A port, or the other way around, it would block the 3.5mm jack. But the other thing to bear in mind is if you're already using a USB-C dongle, so for example, this is from an Aerox mouse, then I don't have a spare USB-C port, but don't worry because you can use the adapter to plug it in instead, so you have that option to do that. Now, there are some small downsides. It only comes with a small charging cable and no power plug, but it does have wireless charging capability. So if you have a power bank with Qi charging, then you can drop it onto that so you can charge up the charging case while out and about. So you've got the convenience of either plugging it in or using wireless charging capabilities with it. So there's a lot of thought that has gone into this and the little details that make it convenient to use. But as I've said, I've found I haven't really had to plug it in that often, at least that the earphones are just constantly charged. There's a little indicator on the outside to let you know when it's charging. You can also see the battery life in the app, as I'll show you in a second. The SteelSeries Arctis companion app can be downloaded, obviously from the Google Play Store in this instance, and then you can connect to the app and you can control various things in here, switching between Bluetooth and wireless modes and changing other things. The first thing I noted, though, is that it does need a firmware update, and you need to do the firmware update on PC. So unfortunately, you can't do this via the app, which is a shame, but it makes sense because you have to update both the headphones and the charging case. So you need to make sure you've got GG for that. You'll see that you can also get various different equalizer settings on the app as well. So you can select from a number of different games that you can get EQ profiles from. You can also adjust the microphone volume and side tone in here. And I'll show you a microphone test later on. So there's built-in microphones. There's actually several built-in mics, some for the ANC and transparency modes, and some for obviously recording purposes. The ANC I'll get to, but is fantastic and blocks out a good amount of surrounding noise. These actually have really good sound from them in terms of passive noise cancellation because they fit into the ear really nicely as well. So you have that and great sound profiles from EQ, which I'll get to in a little while as well in a bit more depth. But obviously you've got a lot of controls here and a visual indicator of how much battery life is left on the earphones themselves individually as well as the charging case. So you can see all that at a glance and it's easy to access these things. Now, SteelSeries GG can be downloaded on PC and then you can access various other settings or do similar things to what we did on the app. So you can see in here in SteelSeries Engine, you can go through various different EQ presets on here as standard, and then you can choose from those for the relevant games. And again, you've got access to ANC and transparency settings and mic settings. You can also change the hardware to control. So this is one of the things that I find a bit annoying about the headphones in some ways and not in others. So you have various different controls that are pretty straightforward and handy. So one press on the right earphone, for example, will pause and play music. and you can triple press on the right one to change between Bluetooth and wireless mode. And you can do various things to cycle between ANC profiles and such on the left one. But to adjust the volume, you have to press once on the left earphone and then press and hold it until the volume adjusts downwards. Now you can change this, so you can remap the buttons, but as default it's a little bit fiddly. Now in Sonar you can also customize the earbuds, but you'll notice when you go in there that it gives you a little warning that you need to make sure that the Gamebuds are set to the flat profile, because if you try and combine the two, or accidentally combine two different EQ profiles, one on the Gamebuds and one in Sonar, then you'll end up with problems with the sound and audio issues obviously you don't want. Now the reason I'm mentioning this is because Sonar and GG are really useful in this way because you can use them for streaming purposes. So if you're a streamer or a content creator, I've done a separate video on setting up Sonar and how useful it can be, but you can see I'm combining these Gamebuds with my Streamer X, which is a hardware for XLR microphone interface. Now this is good because you can obviously use it to use an external mic, so I'm using a Shure SM7B for recording the voiceover for this video, for example, via the Streamer X, and then I'm using SteelSeries Sonar to then use the Gamebuds with listening to audio. You can do similar sort of logic with the Rodecaster Duo or other XLR interfaces, but you can't listen back to the microphone. I'll get to more on that in a little while later on. The fit of the earphones is one of the things I've discussed. I was impressed by how well they fit into the ear. Now I've come from the Logitech G Fits, which I've done a separate video on, which have molded ear tips. These ones with SteelSeries seem a bit generic, but they fit in there magnificently, very comfortably. I've been walking the dog and also working out with these, weightlifting, and not had any problems with them feeling like they're going to fall out. They're comfortable enough to wear for a long time, both for gaming, sitting still, or moving around a lot more. And also the signal is decent from that little dongle that you've seen as well. I'm surprised by it. So if you're gaming away happily and then you want to go get a drink, for example, I don't find the signals dropping out too much if I go to the kitchen. It's not too far away that it's that much of a problem. It's actually comparable with the Nova Pro wireless in that way. So I've had no issues with signal on wireless connectivity, which is pretty good. And you get an audio cue as soon as you pop the earphones in as to whether you're in wireless or Bluetooth mode, which is also very handy. Now, I was expecting to have a tinny experience with these in-ears because that was my initial experience with the Logitech G Fits, but what I've actually found is they've got a lot of bass and punch to them, and obviously you've got a lot of different EQ profiles, so the sound stage is pretty different depending on which of those you've chosen and what game you're playing, but they actually have a lot of character to them, a lot of warmth and a lot of range. I was very surprised by how good they are. This is helped by how well they fit in the ear and the ANC if you decide to turn that on or not, or whether you want to use the transparency mode or just have it fully off. But I found that I can hear footsteps in games really well, so you can see me playing Escape from Tarkov here, for example. You can hear the surrounding positional audio really nicely, and you can just get on and hear what's going on around you. It's great for music and movie watching too, with various different profiles for those things. So whatever you're doing, I think these are really nice and very capable in a variety of ways in terms of the game audio. I'm going to give you a sample of gameplay so you can hear what the recording's like from them as well. So that might not have really been logical or done it justice, but what I wanted to say is basically it sounds fantastic and delivers really good audio quality. Now, I still will say that I prefer the Nova Pro wireless over these in-ears, but that's generally just a personal preference. I will say that I am abandoning the G Fits for my walks and for my exercise sessions and for other things. Like I like to wear in-ears when building PCs, for example, and I'll be using these instead, because these have fantastic comfort, great sound, and lots of convenience to them. Now, there are some things worth talking about, some downsides I want to get into. So one of them, for example, is when ANC is turned on. So if you're pressing on the left ear cup, it goes between the various different settings. So you have transparency mode, which is basically it lets you use the microphones to let you hear outside noise more, so you can hear people talking to you, for example. And then you have ANC where it's just turned off, so it's passive. And then you've got ANC turned on. One of the things I've noticed is with ANC on, if there's no sound and it's completely silent from any of the sources that you're trying to listen to, or not trying to listen to, depending on what you're doing. So let's just say you've paused your music, for example, for a while. I've noticed that occasionally I'll hear what sounds like a cotton wool sound effect in my left ear. Like the sound of cotton wool just moving around in there. It's very odd, and I don't know if it's a personal experience because it doesn't seem to happen on the right-hand side, just the left. Now, I think it's obviously with maybe the environmental noise. The ANC is trying to counter that with sounds inside your ear, and because you're not listening to anything, you can then hear that sound. Also, with the transparency mode, I had the opposite ear. This right ear is making a bit of a weird noise. But again, it's only when it's like silent. It's not a constant problem. If you just have ANC turned off, there's no issues. There's no problems there. It's nice, clean sound. There's no of the static feedback that you might get. I've not experienced any of that sort of problem where there's just a constant sound if you have no sound at all. So no issues there if that's something that you've had a problem with. These are IP55 rated, which means it's good enough for like rain, for example, which is a constant problem in England, let's face it. Or if you're sweating a bit when exercising, and I have been using them like that, and I do get very sweaty, but it's not been a problem with these, so that's fantastic. Now, one of the things that's been a minor issue is the Gamebuds have a thing called Wear Sense, which is meant to basically work out when you've got them in your ear and when you take them off, so that they automatically power off or disconnect, so that not wasting battery. So let's just say you take them off and put them down rather than into the dock, into the carry case, that automatically turn off. One of the problems I noticed is that occasionally I was finding when they were in my ear and I was listening to music that they were just going off. And initially I thought, oh, that's weird. Why is it doing that? Now, I then went into the settings and turned off Wear Sense, and I've not had that problem since. I've spoken to SteelSeries about it, and they say this can actually be down to the positioning of how you got them in your ear. So if you see how they're in my ear at the moment, you can obviously put them in different ways. So maybe if you put them in the wrong way ever so slightly, they feel like they're in, and you probably listen to the sound just fine. But the Wear Sense thinks that they're not in properly, or they're not in at all, and therefore turns them off. So that's one downside, and it's definitely a quirk of the system. If you find that it's basically happening to you if you do buy them, then basically just turn off Wear Sense in the app and you won't have that problem. Now, I said that they have built-in microphones, so let's get into a mic test. I did one out in the world so you can hear that against the sound of the wind and car noise and things in the background in a second, and that's pretty terrible, as you'll hear, but we'll do one in a quiet studio as well. The other thing is, I want to say, talking about car sound, the ANC has been great for that. So I work out in a shed outdoors because I like to exercise. I've got all my weights out there, but there's a lot of car noise from passing vehicles normally. And with the G-Fits, I could hear that still, and it was kind of annoying. With these in, basically blocks out a lot of that, so all the background noise is gone. The downside has been indoors. I don't hear the doorbell as often, and my wife gets aggro about that, which is a regular problem. I do feel like the ANC might be slightly better on these than it is on the Nova Pro Wireless, probably because they're in-ears, so they've got better passive noise cancellation because they're obviously filling your ear up rather than just being over the ear. But the combination of that passive and the ANC is magnificent, so really good in that department. And now you're listening to the Gamebuds. So this is from the microphone directly. You can see that I've put my mic out of the way. I've actually muted it as well, but this is the in-ears straight with their standard settings. So we haven't got anything applied to it with GG. This is literally just what you'd hear from the mics. As you'd expect, not great. One of the downsides, but you know, if you just casually want to talk to someone on the phone for a call, it should be fine. But I wouldn't use them for gaming with your friends on Discord, for example. They probably won't enjoy that sound at all. Here I am out in the field in a horrible November weather. But I've got the ANC turned on, and the point is there's a road right there. The cars going past 60 miles an hour, so they go past pretty fast. But most of the noise is blocked out with these headphones in. You can't hear it. You could probably hear it on the microphones. I'm using the mic from the in-ears right now. I do look forward to lie out and about. But the thing for me is, especially when you're listening to music, which I haven't got anything playing at the moment, but still ANC's blocks out the majority of the noise from the cars, which is wonderful, let me tell you, because I do this walk every day and hearing cars droning past constantly is miserable, but I've got to take that furry one out with walks. So upgrade to my journey, it's nice.
You've made it right to the end of the video, you brilliant legend you. If you've enjoyed it, click that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and drop me a comment down below if you've got any questions. If you really enjoyed it, consider joining the channel and see the benefits of doing so. Check out these other videos. You might well find them interesting or useful. And most importantly, have a great life.